No one knows exactly when what we know today as hoodoo began, but it probably started not too long after indigenous Americans, Africans, and Europeans came into daily contact with one another during the colonial era. All three groups had significant indentured servant and enslaved populations who worked, socialized, and intermarried with one another on a regular basis. Most Europeans during the colonial era were overwhelmingly Protestant and hailed from England, Ireland, Scotland, Germany, and the Netherlands. The majority of the approximately 388,000 African people who were shipped to North America, including Canada, between the 17th and 19th centuries came from a variety of ethnic groups. They were Malagasy, Congo, Igbo, Maghrebis, Akan, Mandi, Hausa, and Fulbe, among many others. There were hundreds of indigenous tribes in the southeast alone prior to colonization, the smaller of whom later joined or were absorbed into larger confederacies, such as the Creek or the Cherokee. Unbeknown to many, there were also other nationalities and ethnic groups who were enslaved, indentured, or voluntarily migrated to North America during the colonial era as well. There were dark-skinned coolies from India and China, Pacific Islanders, and Roma people, aka the Gypsies, many of whom were reclassified and denationalized in official documents by using descriptors such as white, mulatto, or Negro. These groups are also the ancestors of many, many Black Americans who may have incorporated their knowledge into hoodoo, but today have no clue that they have this ancestry. All of the aforementioned peoples from around the world have their own cosmologies, philosophies, folklore, and remedies. Thus, some might say that hoodoo is North America's only totally unrestricted repository of esoteric knowledge. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Queen Osset here. And today we're going to do a quick walkthrough of a brand new deck that has been greatly anticipated by many. I received my copy, about a week ago, and I have promised to do a walkthrough. I haven't even opened up the deck. I opened up the box, but I haven't opened up the deck. I have been going through the guidebook, and what I just read to you came from one of the pages of this guidebook. So, hoodoo, before I show you anything, I'm West Indian, and hoodoo, I've been watching it develop over the past several years. I have been a bit dismayed, to be honest, with the actual practice and the watering down and the disrespect for a great form of empowerment. Unfortunately, with social media and the Goracle and YouTube and lost stories, things that have gone by the wayside. We didn't get information from those who have transitioned. Hoodoo has become an amalgamation, a bastardization of a hodgepodge of inedible, incomprehensible stuff. And I'm hoping that perhaps we can turn things around and, separate the wheat from the chaff, separate the junk from the diamond that is hoodoo. Okay, so this young lady, I'm going to show you some accoutrements that I have. I do not call myself a hoodoo practitioner. I don't call myself that. I am not African American, but I understand the implements. I understand some of the workings from my own cultural aspect. In Jamaica, I would be considered an Obia woman. So, as you can see, I have one of my favorite hats to wear. And then some of my implements here. Dice, shells for divination, my wanga bag, I have a buckeye, wishbone. Many of you, if anyone can recognize what this root is, I have, does anyone recognize what this is? Of course, alligator paws and a lucky mojo bean. So, someone had made this for me, so I will always have money. That is, I believe, like one of the premises of working hoodoo. Working with what is available to you at the time to create or alter or bring change into your life, to create a desired effect for betterment in your life. Why would anyone do any sort of magical working if they didn't want to bring something good into their life? Unfortunately, hoodoo is said in the same sentence with voodoo, vaudon, which are two separate things, but that's another video. And usually those words come from someone who is ignorant, someone who has fed into the Hollywood story. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. And let's see. This young lady, no, before I go in, I'm going to, let me give you some book references for hoodoo. So for those of you who are curious and want to learn a bit more, I do have some book references just so that you can get a better understanding of the root, the idea, the concept of where this comes from. And I'm glad that the guidebook for the Hoodoo Tarot references some of these books. You know, I have read many books, and if they don't reference particular books, then to me it's garbage. Now, yes, I have read a lot of books, and I'm kind of glad that there's one that I have that was written by a local author. I call myself supporting this author, but the book is garbage. I wish I could find it to show you. I can't. Anyway, I don't even remember the name of it. But he's a local author, and if he's listening to me, your book is garbage. Okay. So, let me give you some books that maybe you want to look into, get. Wow. So, this book here, African American Traditional Medicine, is an American classic that emerged out of the necessity of its people to survive. It began with the healing knowledge brought with the African captives on the slave ships, and later merged with Native American, European, and other healing traditions to become a fully fledged body of medicinal practices that has lasted in various forms down to the present day. Working the roots, over 400 years of traditional African American healing is the result of first-hand interviews, conversations, and apprenticeships conducted and experienced by author Michelle E. Lee over several years of living and studying in the rural South and the West Coast regions of the United States. She combines a novelist's keen ear for storytelling and dialogue and a healer's understanding of folk medicine arts into a book that makes for both pleasant, interesting reading and serves as a permanent household healing guide. Okay? This book is divided between sections on interviews of healers and their stories and a comprehensive collection of traditional African American medicines. I'm going to tell you, if you pick up a book on hoodoo and it does not have Miss Caroline, Dr. Buzzard, Miss Ida, and a few other names in it, it's garbage. So, this is the first book, Working the Root. It's a thick digest. Let's see. See? Photos. people. I'm hoping this comes in clear for you guys. I'm flipping through too fast. Oh dear. Let me see. Ooh, can't really see that, can you? Okay, I switched the lighting. I think that's better. So you can at least see some of the writing. So you have in this book some of the healers that we talk about, the plants, what they look like, you know, plants, animals, nature. Those aspects are very, very important in the practice of hoodoo. Then, this book, Mojo Working, okay? The Old African American Hoodoo System by Katrina Hazard Donald. Yes. Oh my gosh. This is the first interdisciplinary examination to incorporate a full glossary of hoodoo culture. This book lays out the movement of hoodoo against a series of watershed changes in the American cultural landscape. Okay? Throughout, Hazard Donald distinguishes between old tradition black belt hoodoo and commercially marketed forms that have been controlled, modified, and often fabricated by outsiders. This study focuses on the hidden system operating almost exclusively among African Americans in the black spiritual underground. Okay, and this is a book that's more academic. Okay, if you're looking for recipes and woo-woo and all of that stuff, that is not in here. I know that in today's culture, we want it now. We want it to happen yesterday. We don't want to understand, learn, or read anything about the root so that we have a better understanding and grasp of where this comes from, so that in essence, what we do has a greater success rate. Okay. Here is another book. These books were referenced by Tayannah McQuillar. Memphis Hoodoo, A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo. Yes. Widely known for its musical influence, Beale Street was also once a hub for hoodoo culture. Many blues icons such as Big Memphis Ma Rainey and Sonny Boy Williamson dabbled in the mysterious traditions. Of course, at that time, if you listen to a lot of the music, the blues music, they speak on, you know, the hoodoo woman or being hoodooed, or the root worker, such like that. Okay, so this is another book to add to your collection. Learn, people, learn. This information is here, you know. Okay, so I am okay. This is another book, The Big Book of Soul by Stephanie Rose Bird, and she has written several other books. If you do not have these books on your bookshelf, I don't know how you're calling yourself a root worker. You know, every practitioner of everything has a reference book, has a place of reference, okay? And your place of reference has to go a little bit beyond the Goracle, meaning aka Google, okay? I always say half of what's on the internet is the truth, or is not the truth rather, and half of it is a lie. So that tells you it's all fabricated, and 99% of that information on Google has been manufactured and fabricated by the person who put it there. A lot of what you need is missing. And the reason why I'm so emphatic about this is because when people come to me and they say they found this thing, they found this recipe, they did this thing, they saw it on the line, they saw it on the internet, blah, 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 and they come to me because the shit has hit the fan. I can tell.
that there is something missing, something was not done, they were misdirected. So please, people, do a little bit of research. Trust, know, and understand. Whenever you put out there, if it doesn't hit its target, it will come back around to you. I do not believe in the threefold law. That's not that whole thing. It's just one and done. You understand me? Okay. So, Stephanie Rose Bird, for those of you who are just starting out, this is a good book. One day at a time, something to get you going. Gather, sit with a group of friends, get a friend to work through this book, to enhance your practice. Okay. Let's see. Now, I know you may think, what does that have to do with hoodoo? What does that have to do with hoodoo? Well, let's see. The Dogon and the Mari, their stories contain a lot of information about the human experience that I guess you could say those of us in quote unquote Western culture can find a similarity, a parallel, okay? This just gives you a better understanding, I guess you could say, of your existence. Oh boy, shiny, shiny, shiny. I'm sorry about that. There we go. Gives you a better understanding of your existence on this planet, and perhaps help you understand your purpose. Okay. Let's see. Those. All right. Oops. Here is a book about Catherine Dunham. So, many of you know about Zora Neale Hurston, and I'm going to give you a couple of authors that you should look into if you want additional information about this spirituality, about this methodology. Zora Neale Hurston, Octavia Butler, Nalo Hopkinson, Alice Walker, Toni Morrison, and Sue Monk Kidd. Don't overlook books written by these authors. They provide some additional information. They help fill in, those cracks, those little bit of cracks. Just imagine a clay pot that's supposed to hold water, and it has just a little bit of a fissure, a little crack, and it just needs a little dab of something just to seal that up. Not a lot, it's not fully broken, but you just notice a little few droplets here and there. Well, those books will help fill in those fissures. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you two more. That's a concept behind name papers and petition papers. Okay? It's not that different. So you don't have to find a book or thing or something, a tome on petition, developing a petition or creating petition papers or something. This is a good book for those of you, you're not interested in hoodoo, you're not interested in that concept, but you kind of want to, bring some improvement into your life. Okay, this book by Henriette Ann Clauser is one of those. Write it down. I always believe in those of you who work with the new moon or the full moon, new moon intentions, right? You write it down. I always feel like when you write it down, it's almost like you're letting the universe know, I'm serious about this. And so the universe is like, oh, damn, she's serious about wanting this. She's actually putting the energy into writing it down. Okay. And this book, and this is a fellow YouTuber, Mary Grace Faroon. Okay, now I had the privilege of knowing Estrega oh my gosh, 20, 30, no, 25 years ago. This Trega, she was the one that introduced me to this, and she's the one that introduced me to actually shadow work. She's the first person that put me through my journey of shadow work. So get this book, right? Maybe you feel that the African American experience or tradition, maybe you don't feel comfortable with that. Maybe that, doesn't resonate with you. Whatever. For some reason. Maybe you don't feel like, oh, you have permission you don't know. Well, this is a good book too, okay? Maybe if I remember, I'll link Marianne's channel. But if I don't, if some one of my viewers watching this, please, let her know that I've shouted her out here. Okay, this is a good book to get. Now, every root worker, I'm going to tell you this for most of you who are watching this. Okay, people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm spiritual. I left the church. I'm not part of the church anymore. I don't believe in the church and blah, blah, blah and all of that. And I always ask them why. Why? Why would you leave the faith of your people? They would say because they didn't get anything out of it, all right? And one of the things I try to explain is if you take the dogma out of it, there's still something beautiful to be gleaned from it. It is something that has been around, a couple of thousand years. It's a young religion. Christianity is a young religion in comparison. I am Hebrew, but Christianity is a young religion in comparison to many of the other world religions. But there's still something beautiful there. And for many of us who come from those who came to the diaspora, they leaned on the Bible for guidance and support, but they didn't use it in that dogmatic way. They used it and saw it as a book of power. And unfortunately, many people tend to overlook and are misguided by this. This is a Bible that was given to me by my uncle, Ibaye, Uncle Lorenzo, resting in power. And you can see it's one of those, it's old and it's worn, and there are places in here that we have highlighted, and I can't find it now. It's a study Bible that references, it goes back and forth. This is just something, this is my family Bible, and most families have a Bible somewhere. And I know many of you are going to think like, oh no, it's the church and I'm not doing anything with that and all of that. Now I'm 23 minutes in and I haven't even shown you the deck, but I'm giving you all this information to lead up, because do not think that this deck is going to make you a hoodoo practitioner personified. You understand me? No. The deck is to help you enhance or help you learn about this thing called hoodoo. So, every hoodoo practitioner will have a Bible. I'm telling you, you will have a Bible. If you don't have a Bible, then you at least have the Book of Psalms. Okay? You at least have one of these on your bookshelf. Every hoodoo practitioner has the ability and the knowledge to tap into the biblical verses. So when you want to separate what you supposedly call being a hoodoo root worker practitioner from the root of where this comes from, the root that this is built in, you're not doing hoodoo. I'm just saying. Yes, I'm being Actually, I'm not even being judgmental. Okay? You cannot come to me as a person and tell me that you are a doctor and you don't have a degree. You haven't studied, right? And that's why every doctor has a specialty, or should have a specialty. An internist is not going to be able to diagnose your skin issue. So they're not going to call themselves a dermatologist unless they have studied that. They may even have a little bit of an idea, but more than likely they're going to refer you to someone who is a specialist in that field. Do you understand? Okay. The reason why people come to Hoodoo and other non-secular traditions is to be empowered, yes? And unfortunately, some of y'all want to have power over other people. I'm telling you, what you put out there is going to come back to you. You just have to be willing to suffer the consequences. Okay. And one other thing, I'm going to throw something else at you, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Get yourself dream books. These kind of dream books, okay? These are dream books with what you see in your dreams and the associated numbers. Now, you know, almost everybody grew up with a dream book in their house. Somewhere, the meanings of, I dreamt this, what's this number, da-da-da-da-da, all of that, okay? And I remember growing up in, growing up in New York, and maybe within the past, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years, I want to say almost every liquor store carried a dream book. I don't know, maybe there are still stores in the South that might, but they're hard to find now. Now you have to go to, you know, your local woo-woo shop or Botanica or something, and you might find the book. But get yourself a dream book. So some of the books I just listed or just shown you, you know, get one or two, have it on your bookshelf to enhance your practice. Okay, so one last book. Get a book on African American folktales. Any book. Let me see. Pause here. Okay. Get your any book. Some of the authors that I just named off: Alice Walker, Zora Neale Hurston. Zora Neale, she wrote. There's a document. I think I can find a link online about Hoodoo in America. Toni Morrison. Any book. Here's another one of my favorite books, Her Stories. Yeah? African American folk tales, fairy tales, and true tales. You see, black people, we have our own fairy tales as well. You understand me? For many of us, Cinderella, Mother Goose, Hansel and Gretel, they don't resonate with us in that sense, and yet that seems to be the thing that, you know, we fall under. And I know they could be allegorical and archetypes and all. Look, stop it, okay? Just stop it. We have our own. Learn them. And for those of us who are not African American, who are not black, read our stories too, so you have a better understanding of our plight, our root, our upbringing. Get to learn a bit more about us through our stories. Okay? All right. So, let me see. It is early in the morning when I'm doing this. Well, it's not that early. Oh, Tayannah. This was her first book. This is one of her books, and I have a couple of her other books as well. Okay, but in her guidebook, in the Hoodoo guidebook, she says, by the time you read this, it will have been almost 20 years since Rootwork, the folk magic of Black America, was published. such as this book. At the time, there were very few contemporary books written on the subject of hoodoo, but today there are literally dozens of them. The resurgence of mainstream interest in witchcraft, the occult, and African indigenous spirituality is without a doubt, responsible for the proliferation of literature, workshops, festivals, and conferences, and social media groups focused on root working. As a result, there have been a shocking number of people claiming to be practitioners, authorities, and/or teachers of this centuries-old tradition. It is for this reason that I decided it was time for me to address the topic again, not to berate anyone else, but to clarify a few things, get more in-depth, and correct a huge mistake I made in my first book. This era was a description of hoodoo as folk magic, in an attempt to assimilate the topic to academic language and standards. But hoodoo wasn't folk magic when it started being described as such by social scientists, nor is it folk magic now. Hoodoo is a culture and inheritance with a distinct lineage in North America. It is the product of people who face terrorism and unimaginable suffering on a daily basis, yet refuse to relinquish all of their power and identity. Hoodoo, in addition to being a body of botanical and esoteric knowledge, is also a rebellion against absolute mental and spiritual domination by Europeans. That is the essence, the reality of what hoodoo is, but there are many ways one may define its composition. The oft-repeated and most widely accepted narrative characterizes hoodoo as a primarily African retention with Native American and European influences. However, that is only a theory, and a difficult one to prove at that. The reason for this are several, as outlined below. And I'll just give you a few of what she says. We know little to nothing about the underground religious spiritual lives of any racial or ethnic groups in colonial America. Contrary to popular belief, the colonists were not the rigid religious zealots people think they were. In fact, only approximately 15% of the population before 1760 were members of any church, which is why officials constantly complained about the unabashed sinners, vice, and all around loose living in the colonies. Therefore, the only information that does exist about the religious life of the colony is based on the 15% of people who were willing or able to attend church. There's even less information available about the spiritual lives of Africans or Aboriginal Americans, save for the plethora of generic accusations of heathenry. Number 2, some of the elements of root work that are classified as African retentions, such as bone divination, quartered ideographic religious symbols, medicine bundles, etc., are ubiquitous to many indigenous American cultures as well. Number 3, like Black Americans, hoodoo is not a monolith. The tradition takes on variations depending on one's family history and location. Commonly, hoodoo knowledge is inherited, so the information passed down regarding methodology and philosophy may be as diverse and complex as the family from which that knowledge originates. Number 4, colonial America was far less segregated and had more interracial, interethnic couples than many contemporary American cities did until very recently. Not only were interracial, interethnic marriages normal, but socializing between people of all nationalities was common until almost a century after the establishment of Jamestown. Obviously, with the sharing of bloodlines and dinner tables, there will also be a considerable amount of sharing of information. Okay? That being said, this work doesn't attempt to tell the truth about what hoodoo is or is not. Her objectives are to pay homage to practitioners, known and unknown, who saw the value in their ancestral practices and had the courage to keep the tradition alive, despite constant persecution and denigration for doing so. Number 2, to show how the history of black North Americans makes rootwork specific to their experience alone and is therefore unfairly compared to foreign systems that may appear to be synonymous, such as Vodou or Vodou or Voodoo. Vodou, also spelled voodoo, is a religion whose practitioners in the Western Hemisphere, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Brazil, Louisiana, were often Catholic. While many elements are familiar to all as inhabitants of the Americas, every country has their own history and unique demographical composition that inform their systems and practices. Root workers are united, however, by the Anglo-American Protestant. Let me say this again. For those of y'all who don't want to and refuse to, and you don't want to acknowledge, root workers are united, however, by the Anglo-American Protestant traditions and those of the indigenous nations of North America. Okay? Number 5, increase awareness of the fact that there is no separating black history from indigenous history because the two are often intertwined by bloodline and or common experiences, chattel slavery, forced relocations, land theft, etc. This is not to mention the long history of darker and broader featured Aboriginal populations being purposefully reclassified as mulatto, colored, or Negro, and detribalized to facilitate land theft, Christian conversion, and overall cultural genocide. In fact, it is still commonplace to attribute elements of black American culture to Africans and African retentions, even when based solely on a theory or when there is proof to the contrary. For instance, soul food ingredients, dishes, and preparation methods predate chattel slavery by thousands of years. For example, grits, sweet potatoes, cornbread, hush puppies, poke salad, johnny cakes, climbing beans, barbecued meats, and fried foods were all part of the daily diet of Eastern American woodland populations. That is just one example of the erasure of Black America's indigenous North American heritage and lineage. Yeah. So, forms of divination traditionally used in hoodoo. I'm going to put you on pause again. I got to get something. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so Tayannah goes on to describe different forms of divination traditionally used in hoodoo. Cleromancy, which is the casting of, shells, small objects, dice, things like that. Let's see. Root workers commonly use cat, possum, and chicken bones as a preferred medium for casting lots. This practice became known as throwing the bones. This divination method is ubiquitous around the world. Several African ethnic groups who voluntarily migrated to or were enslaved in North America, such as the Congo and the Igbo, say Igbo, I-G-B-O, Igbo, not Igbo or Igbo, Igbo, okay, were scalpomancers, osteomancers, or cleromancers. Indigenous American tribes such as the Labrador, and the Algonquin also practiced these different forms of divination. Throwing the bones most likely remained a respectable and common practice in hoodoo due to its justification in the Bible. The casting of lots was totally acceptable among the early prophets and the disciples of Jesus. Cartomancy is another form, of course, that's using cards, playing cards, etc., etc., as hoodoo relies on the ancestors and the Holy Spirit. Individual root workers would have their own method of conjuring both to ensure that all negative energy stayed as far away from the querent and themselves as possible. Then we have natural and judicial astrology. Root workers pay serious attention to lunar phases, solar positions, and sometimes stars before doing their work. The initiation of certain workings during the wrong time of day or evening could seriously diminish the effectiveness of a working. Let me see. The church taught that the belief in the influence of heavenly bodies upon health, fortune, and temperament or actions was unchristian, but many root workers did not care. Primarily, this was because it was tradition. Second, it worked for them. And most important, powerful biblical personalities and prophets such as Joseph, Daniel, Jeremiah, and Isaiah adhered to the prophecies predicted by natural astrology. Augury is another form of divination, and this is the deciphering of phenomena or omens that are believed to foretell the future, often signifying the advent of change. Hoodoo developed outdoors, and many of its practitioners were extremely in tune with nature as landowners and agricultural workers. It was critical to know when the appropriate times were to plant, till, and reap what one had sown. It was equally important to know the behavior of the wildlife in one's area to avoid harm to one's person, livestock, or crops. And then we have onomancy, which is the form of divination based upon dreams. Root workers pay close attention to symbolism, and hence we go back to where's my Aunt Sally's dream book? Y'all know what I'm talking about. These right here, yes? Okay, so let me go back. In fact, it was a common practice for hoodoo practitioners to make predictions for themselves and others based on their dreams. So this is why one of these books plays a handy role in your hoodoo practice if you do that. I grew up in a family of dreamers, meaning we would all at times experience the same dream at the same time. That's a thing. And that's why this is another video. Decks like that, I suppose, for dream work, I actually prefer that. I'll get back to those later though. So on with the show, shall we? So Tayannah McQuillar, you all know her from the book I just showed you, which is the root working book, but also she's the creator of the Sibyllus Oraculum, and I used that deck during my Kwanzaa journey a few weeks ago. Okay, now she has that. Don't they look similar? They have that aged sepia look, okay? And this is a deck that's put out by Inner Traditions. So if you work with any of Inner Traditions decks, the one complaint would be thin cardstock. So let's just get that off the table. With my Sibyllus, I went ahead and backed it with clear contact paper. And I also bought a backup copy. Okay. So the guidebook is delicious, and that's what I've been reading from. It's a good sized book. Let's see, 145 pages. I am always curious when I see that, the bibliography, and I'm always amazed when a creator actually does some research. Quite proud. So this deck, of course, guidebook, I'll go through this a little bit. She has in here getting to know your deck. The elders would be your major arcana. The family will be the court cards, and the community would be the minor arcana. And she breaks that down. And each card has plants, they're card images, they have plants and Bible quotes as well, right? The tools that go with this. She explains that if you read reverse cards, how that comes up, what that means. And if you don't read reverse, the additional underlying message that you might get from that card. And then, of course, we have spreads, sample spreads here. See about your folks. This is ancestor reading. Those of you who are looking for an ancestor deck, this may be one of the decks. I'm going to work with it for a little bit, as I said. I haven't even taken the cards out of the shrink wrap. I have just been reading the guidebook. You can see my tabs are in here. It's insane. So you have a small color picture, and as she says, these are historical references, like Dr. Grant, who that is the hermit, the biblical verse that is there, a plant that is associated, and then a description of the card. And then each card has, I don't know, like this one, the hermit card, has how many pages? 2 pages. What I really, really enjoy are the prompts, especially in the majors. Okay. So as I said, the box is a 2-piece box like this, slide out drawer. You know, because I have nails, I have to give it a good shake to get it out. But it's about the size of a book. It will sit greatly on my bookshelf. I love that look of surprise on the woman's face there, yeah? And, comes in here. For those people who care about things like that, I'm not. I mean, I do want my decks to be aesthetically pleasing, but, it's neither here nor there for me. Sometimes overly thin cardstock could break, make or break the deal. So, some things, I have long nails, and I can take them out of the drawer easily. Let's put that aside. I just had that. Might as well do that like that, yeah? See if I can get this. Anyway, and the guidebook, put that over here. My hat. And the decks come like this. So I am going to use, you guys might want to get something. Okay. I sew. So I have something called a seam ripper, which is safer for me to use than a knife or a letter opener when opening a deck, because you could just slide this in. See that? How easily, without fear of damaging the cards, and get that plastic off. That's what the backs look like. So let's get this plastic off. Yeah, so get yourself a seam ripper. Okay. Cardstock. If you have the Sibyllis oraculum, the cardstock is about the same. And perhaps maybe I'll move the camera down a little bit so we can get close-up shots. I'm going to try not to speak a whole lot. You have been with me so far 50 minutes. I appreciate you hanging with me. So what I'm going to do is put the deck together like so. Of course, I'll probably edge my deck. Oh, do we have an issue here? Let's see. Oh, that's okay. Oh, all right. How fussy do we get? That's crazy, right? I don't know. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, let's see. The free man. Ooh. The cards have this look of similar in tone to the relative tarot. Yes, similar in tone. I do like the sepia tone. So we have the Fool, the free man. My book. So as I said, the deck is comprised of the elders, which is the major. The minors will be your community, and the court cards are your family. But then the suits are also, they're known as tools. And so the wands have been renamed sticks, which is primal energy, power, passion, authority. Baskets, love, emotions, healing. Knives, ideas, thoughts, beliefs. Coins, wealth, security, and protection. Okay. And so in the book, I mean, she gives you a lot of history here. If you do nothing else, she says, a man is walking away from the tomb of Joshua John Ward of Georgetown County, South Carolina. Ward was the largest American slaveholder, dubbed the King of the Rice Planters. The man is carrying a mason jar filled with dirt. Who is this young man? Did he know Ward personally? Why did he risk being persecuted or prosecuted for trespassing or witchcraft? Does he have a purpose at all, or is the man just plain crazy? Yeah. I'm telling you, I'm going to have to come back after I work with this deck and probably do another walkthrough after I pull out the nuggets. But I know you guys have been with me. You just want to see what the cards look like. Yeah. The Black Freeman. I mean, every card. Man. This is Benjamin Rucker, a.k.a. Black Herman. I'm sorry, I saw Freeman. Black Herman was the most famous Negro magician in the history of the United States. He adopted the name Black Herman to pay homage to two fellow black magicians he admired, Prince Herman and Alonzo Herman. Black Herman's charismatic personality, illusions, and resurrections after being buried alive made him a national sensation. Oh, man. There's so much more. Wow. Okay. Miss Ida. Remember I had mentioned Miss Ida. If you buy a Hoodoo book and Miss Ida's not in that book. Oh my gosh. Miss Ida. Miss Ida, Seven Sisters Carter, was a root worker from Hogansville, Alabama. There isn't much information about Miss Ida, but she told an interviewer that she was called to root working at just 7 years old. Miss Ida recalled the process of self-initiation, which consisted of burning 7 candles all night while she prayed, starting on the 1st of May and continuing for 6 consecutive nights. Miss Ida repeated this process each May for 7 years until the Holy Spirit told her she was ready to work for the community. How many of us are willing and ready to dedicate prayer, silence, stillness for 7 nights, 7 years, until we are ready. Many of us want to pick up a book and you read through the book and like, oh, I'm ready. I can do this because I feel called, compelled. It's in my spirit. All of that. I'm telling you. Okay. Here we go. Big Queen. A carnival Indian queen smiles as she displays her Black Hawk bucket. Black Hawk was the leader of the Sauk and the Fox tribe. He was a powerful warrior who was well known for his bravery in resisting colonial encroachment on his land and way of life. Today, many spiritualists and root workers in Louisiana and beyond work with Black Hawk to ensure victory against their enemies. Okay. John Horse, the Emperor. Juan Caballo. Juan Caballo was born into slavery in Florida. Not much is known about his early life. Oh boy. Yeah. There's so much. Okay, you know what? I'm going to be quiet and then I'm going to come back. I will. I'm going to come back with a history lesson. We're going to do that. Because y'all been with me a long time. Bishop Mason. Courting. Gosh, I keep saying I'm just like so pulled in. I know I keep saying I'm going to come back, but wow. Ooh, there used to be a time when people understood the distinction between dating and courting. Dating was a lighthearted activity that gave a man and a woman a chance to get to know each other. Not only was it perfectly fine to call on different people, but it would also be considered unwise not to keep one's options open. However, when two people decided they wanted to see each other exclusively, that's when the courtship began. The goal of courtship was not to have a companion for years, as it is common nowadays. The goal was marriage. Okay. Railroad Bill. So much strength. Dr. Grant as my hermit. Let's go back to the strength card. One of the prompt questions here, is associated with the plant chamomile. A woman poses with her powerful puma. She trusts it and it trusts her. If you receive strength in a reading, consider the following. And this is just one question. Are you strong enough to be compassionate? Use the power of persuasion to get the results you seek. You can get through this difficult time if you just calm down. If you would want to be forgiven in that situation, then forgive. Reject any attempts someone is making to intimidate you. Okay, so Dr. Grant's here. Dr. Grant, it was a proud swamper. Let's see. Many conjure doctors were using herbs and other supplies from catalogs, but Dr. Grant, however, was a proud swamper who preferred to do things the old-fashioned way by gathering what he needed in the wild. Dr. Grant reminded Hurston of a few critical but often forgotten lessons, so Zora Neale interviewed him. 1. Believe in one's limitless power. 2. Petition spirits unequal to man. And 3. Know more than one way to get a job done. And 4. Acknowledge that no two people or jobs are alike, because the remedy that works for one person may not work for another. And that's why I give this cautionary statement about what is found on the interwebs. Okay, let's get going here. Oh my. Aunt Carol. Dr. Buzzard, yes. High John, Low John, Galangal root. Ooh, Gullah Jack. Ancestors. Father Sims. Miss Robinson. Oh, there's a story about Miss Robinson here. Yes, the big house. And the grandchildren. Look at that. Look at that. I want you to look at this. Do you see those hands? Yeah. Pa, Big Mama. You see that? The moon is often associated with feminine energy, and here it is masculine. Big Mama, the sun, often associated with masculine energy, and here it is, Big Mama. Yes? Them bones. Judgment, baby. Put that up there. The garden. Okay, now let me see what I have here. Mother, father, daughter. So the court cards, which is your family, is broken down into father, daughter, mother, father, daughter, and son of sticks. Ooh, that's a little, let me see if I can do something about that. Too much glare there. No, not working. I will put this over here like that. Okay. Court cards. Mother of baskets. Father of baskets. Daughter of baskets. And son of baskets. Now, when I get into the court cards, I want to see why she put the mothers first. Let me get in here. Let me see if I can find out. Getting to know. The tools. Okay, so the family. Just as the major arcana is the foundation of the tarot, the elders are the foundation of the family. The elders in indigenous communities serve the same purpose as the majors, to transmit age-old knowledge and wisdom via the use of complex symbolism and story. Thus, the elders are venerated as living libraries from which an unfathomable amount of data can be or may be accessed regarding a culture's tradition, history, and what that people perceives to be their ultimate purpose as warriors, artisans, etc., etc. The family is equivalent to the court cards in standard tarot decks. In this regard, the family is the deck actually represents the idealized American nuclear family model rather than the aristocrats and their servants. However, the family and court cards share a similar purpose in that they both represent specific people or personalities. And the community relates to the minor arcana as they both reflect the lessons of the elders regarding mundane life experience. Okay. All right. So now we have Mother of Knives, Father of Knives, Daughter of Knives, Son of Knives. That glare. It's killing me. I wonder if I turn. I don't want to do that. Doesn't matter, does it? Okay. Now I have Mother of Coins, Father of Coins, Daughter, and Son. So those are the court cards. Now we get into the minors, rather. Let's see. Ace of Sticks, Ace of Baskets, I'm going to try to do this in some sort of Two of Knives. Ooh, can't really see that. Let's do that. Ace of Knives. And Ace of Coins. All right. Okay, so those are your aces. Just wish there wasn't so much glare on that side. Okay. So now we have your twos. Two of Baskets. That's a gorgeous picture. Two of Knives. That's an interesting photo as well. Interesting. Looks like our two selves. Oh, I did say I was not going to do this, but I'm curious. Okay, here we go. Some coins, what's this? Baskets. Two of Knives. The plant is baby's breath. The image. Root workers refer to some people being four-eyed, which is a reference to the ability to perceive both the physical and spiritual realms. Oh, see, I say two-headed. Here, a four-eyed woman nervously bites her lips because her spiritual eyes have been gouged out. Ooh, okay. Alrighty then. Okay, that's a little intense, but wow. Okay, I really want to do something better with this lighting, because I want you guys to see everything. I might have to take that off. Okay, let's try this now. So, Three of Sticks, Three of Wands, Three of Baskets, Three of Knives, Three of Coins, Four of Knives. Dowsing, Four of Coins. Yes. Got a dowsing rod there, yeah? Five of Sticks. Five of Baskets. Five of Knives. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Five of Coins. Six of Sticks. Six of Baskets. Six of Knives. Six of Coins. Oh, yeah. of baskets. Got that bath going on. Seven of knives. Seven of coins. I'm laughing because I know what that means. I know, you know. Yes. Yes, honey. Yes, I do. 8 sticks. 8 of baskets. Let's see. 8 of knives. 8 of coins. 9 sticks. Yes. 9 of sticks. Let's just look at that for a minute. Oh my gosh, yes. Let me see if it is what I think it is. Plant is pepper. An oppressed woman has finally decided that enough is enough. She protects herself with a mojo bag, a Bible, and a pistol. The skull top sticks represent the ancestors who have been waiting for her to make a move and are willing to provide assistance. Yes. Huh. 9 of baskets. 9 of knives. 9 of coins. 10 of sticks. 10 of baskets. 10 of knives. And 10 of coins. So, for those of you who have watched this to the end, what do you not see in this deck? Because this is going to be another subject as well. You don't see Oshun. You don't see Elegua. You don't see Baron Samedi. Why? Because they do not play a role in Hoodoo. No, they do not. So, for those of us who are Avarishas or practitioners of ATR, African Traditional Religions, ATR, we would appreciate it. I know my mama would appreciate if you would stop leaving things in her house. Oshun would appreciate if you would stop polluting her waters. And well, Elegua, he will let you know. So you see, the Arisha and the Wa are not used in Hoodoo. The fact that many of us want to mix and mingle pantheons because we feel like it, or we feel compelled to, or we feel drawn to, does not make it right. You know? Sure, go with your intuition, but you must understand that my faith, my practice is a religion, something that I hold in high regard. My Arisha work, my Arisha worship, my Arisha path is separate from my Obia workings. I do not mix and mingle the two. But at the end of the day, it's ancestors first. And there are many people who come to me and I always ask them, what are you doing to revere your ancestors? Not worship, okay? Revere. Because at the end of the day, hopefully, when you transition, hopefully you become an ancestor. Not everyone who transitions becomes an ancestor. An ancestor is an energy that you can tap into on this side. Not everyone becomes an ancestor. Number 2, there are many of us who have a fear of the unknown and the dead. But keep this in mind. There are more beneath the horizon than on top of it. If the dead wanted to get you, if the dead wanted to harm you, if the dead wanted to do something to you, they would have done so already. There are more of them than there are of us. So, wow, that was long. This was a long video. So I'm going to wrap it up with 2 more books. So if you want to start your studies, you want to learn a bit more, hold on, I'm going to take you for a ride. How's that work? Okay. So, here's another book for you. These books will help you enhance and get a better understanding of the African American experience with a bit of our spirituality and our culture thrown in. So with that, let's see here. This is the presentation of the Hoodoo Tarot. I know many of you have ordered it. Now, if one of my tarotistas is watching this walkthrough and you get this deck, yes, when you come to class, the next phase, what we're going to do for this year in 2020, we will be talking about root work and hoodoo and a bit of obia and lukumi, ifa, santeria, whatever you. We'll be talking about those things. We'll be taking our tarot readings to another level. The prerequisite is that you've done your shadow work, finished it up from 2019, and that, well, you followed some of the information that has been sent to you. Anyway, I have rambled on. Thank you so much for being with me. 1 hour and 20 minutes almost. Stay blessed, stay peaceful, and I will be back with another walkthrough. Take care.